Thank you for watching. I'm John Rasmus. In this episode, recorded, filmed on Friday the 13th. You might not see this till Saturday or sometime later, but I assure you, it is Friday the 13th. A scary day. I woke up with a headache. This might be a little bit too bright, so let's turn that off real quick and get into the more scary mood. Alright. This video is about how to defend yourself against unseen forces, negative ones. Manly P. Hall wrote a little booklet called Unseen Forces, and I bought it because I was bothered by unseen forces in the year 2010 and 2011. I was hoping to find some insight on unseen forces in this manual, but I have to admit I didn't find anything. I'm a fan of Manly P. Hall. He puts out a lot of great stuff, but sometimes he won't get to the core of the issue, and I'm guilty of that same thing. Unseen forces. What happened to me in 2010 and 2011? I've never told the full story of 2010. I'm saving that for my book, Corners of Rooms. I am writing the book. The 2010 incident is top secret for the book, but I have mentioned that I was introduced. I was minding my own business, stone cold sober and wide awake, and I was introduced to a negative entity. And let me get the phone that I was listening for, a text message. Back in 2010, text messages did exist. I recently rediscovered the phone. Let me show it to you. This right here is the phone that I was listening for a text message for. I originally said it was a Razr flip phone. The year in 2010, I did upgrade, and I got this one. I totally forgot about this phone, the Razr. I remember it being so hard to text with a Razr that I had to get this, which had its own little keyboard. These were very popular in 2010. It's a Verizon phone. I was easily able to send text messages. I really liked it. And I was texting a girl back and forth in the year 2010. And we text every night for many weeks, a couple months. And so I knew she was probably going to text me. So I had this phone next to me, and I was waiting, listening for the text. The phone was sitting, and I'm going to have to buy a new battery for this because the battery doesn't work. I tried to charge it, doesn't work. I'm pretty sure the text messages have all been deleted. But one of the reasons I didn't write it down on a piece of paper what day that was, I know it was very close to Valentine's Day. A couple days before or a couple days after. The reason I didn't write it down on a piece of paper is because I had a text message where I mentioned the incident to the girl. I said, hey, something crazy happened to me last night, something creepy, something weird, yada yada yada. And I was like, you know what, I have that text message, I'll just refer to that. And maybe I did write it down on a piece of paper, but I've yet to find that piece of paper. I'm really trying to find it. I remember it was around 11 p.m., the incident. I was introduced to a negative entity, an unseen force. 6 months down the road, that unseen force, in my opinion, probably had a lot to do with the fact that I was poltergeist haunted for 6 months straight. A mention of 6 months twice in a row can be confusing, but 6 months before the poltergeist incident, I was introduced to a negative entity, an unseen force, which was picked up by my ears, picked up by my touch, I could feel it, picked up by a different sense of feeling. The type of feeling that you feel when, I don't know, let's say you accidentally touch an electric fence and it really shocks you through your whole body. So those three senses, I could not see it, I could not smell it, couldn't taste it, but three other senses I could feel it. I consider feeling an electric pulse through your body different than feeling on the surface of your skin, for example. It's a totally different type of feeling. So I consider 3 senses confirmed to me that entity was in my room. I know for a fact, to this day it was. So how do you protect yourself against negative unseen forces? I'm about to reveal something I've never revealed. During the 6 months in the year 2011, when I was poltergeist haunted for 6 months straight, 182 days straight, I do round up the number. It was closer to 5.5 months. Because I remember the first 2 weeks, I didn't notice anything. So it was closer to 5.5 months straight. In the middle, well, I would say not in the middle, I would say easily 1 month in, I was grasping at straws of how to get this thing out of my room, how to get this thing out of my life. Oh, I did try prayer. I tried telling it to leave, even though I didn't open any communication with it. Telling it to leave is something I did try on a number of occasions. It would always leave and it would always come back. And that told me that it pretended, or at least seemed to claim it as its own room, and that almost I was the one intruding on their room. I picked up a book called Think and Grow Rich. Matter of fact, someone let me borrow it years prior before that. And it really impressed upon me. I probably read half of it, and then I returned it to the guy. And I was really appreciative. I told him, I'm going to buy my own copy. Thank you for letting me borrow it. It actually helped me. It's a really inspiring book. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Check that book out. Get it. It's actually free. You can download it for free, last I checked. I think the copyright is expired. Anyone can get it. So watch out. You're going to see people publishing it with their own notes or their own versions. I prefer to get the actual original versions, and there are many versions. I was at a thrift store, and I saw the book, Think and Grow Rich. I was like, wow, what a coincidence. So I grabbed it, I read it, amazing insights. Napoleon Hill, he says you need to magnetize and crystallize your mind in a positive direction. Napoleon Hill said, when you magnetize and crystallize your mind, not brainwashing, just self-empowering, just build yourself up through your mind. One of the techniques Napoleon Hill recommends is to visualize protection of your mind and to write a daily affirmation to be repeated. I was in such dire straits during the 6 months of poltergeist haunting and poltergeist activity, and I have to say this video is somewhat of a response to someone who watches this channel, and they said the following.
Greetings, friends. I wanted to share my thoughts with you on how you can avoid malicious energy. These are just my thoughts. This is not the truth. This is just how I make sense of it. And I'm reacting in part to a video I saw last night by one of my new favorite YouTubers who's called John Razimus. And he's been a YouTuber for many years in this video talking about his experience being haunted by a poltergeist for 6 months. So these thoughts I'm going to share with you would not have worked for John Razimus because he had to deal with this poltergeist and there was nothing he could do about it. This thing would be bugging him no matter what he did. He just had to adapt to it. Giving this video partly in response to what I saw is a very frightening situation. And literally I slept okay, but it was I was watching this video late at night, so it was kind of spooky. I mean, like I said, I'll give you the link, but he goes into description about what this poltergeist did. It was like this, you couldn't see it, but it was kind of like an imp or a monkey. The interesting thing Rasmus had to say is you never communicate with a demon. Don't ever start getting into any relationship with it. Ignore it. You don't want to build up some sort of relationship that it's going to. But anyways, that's him. That's his insight, which I really appreciate. Anyways, none of these things would work for John Razimus. He had some poltergeist haunting him for 6 months, and it's terrifying. And the video, nothing in the video was all too. It's just a very creepy video, and so I'll put the link to at least one of them there. But none of these things would have worked for him. He just had to deal with that. And you know what? He was able to survive in the end. He just like learned how to sleep with this thing, throwing things around his house, trying to get him down all the time. And he didn't pay attention to it. He just did his thing. And eventually, I guess it left him. But I swear to hell, I don't wish that on anyone. I don't know how I would cope with that.
I really appreciate people actually believing me, because I assure you, there are many people that do not believe me. And when a few people actually do believe me, it gives me hope in mankind, because I don't aimlessly, mindlessly spout this stuff so it can go into the ether and be deleted. And people saying, whatever. I actually mention this stuff because I hope one day someone who's under a similar circumstance will also learn at least what I learned and have a little bit more protection. So I read Napoleon Hill's book. There's a daily affirmation he recommends you write yourself. Repeat it, believe in it, to prove. I'm going to show you the daily affirmations that I wrote while I was living in the Poltergeist room. A good 1 to 2 months in, I started writing a daily affirmation. This is concrete proof that I was in dire straits, that something was happening, something was bothering me to an extreme degree. An invisible entity was knocking over objects in my room on a daily basis, on a regular basis. Bottles of water, boxes, pencils, pens, Walmart bags, pillows, creaking and knocking and pounding, playing with things under my bed, knocking over my DVD collection was stacked up. He got knocked over. Many, many, many things. And I saw it while wide awake, looking around, seeing it happen. I had to buy a fan, turn it up to max volume so it would blast. I had to buy a second pillow, put it over my ear, and I had to pretend I wasn't hearing all this stuff around me all night long. But during the 6-month period of time, 5.5 months, here are the 4 daily affirmations I wrote. I took so much great care into writing them that I have them all encased in plastic. Here are 2 that I really didn't settle on. And here are 2 of the final drafts. I can tell you this is the first one I wrote, and this is the one that hung up on my wall for many a months. This hung on my wall for at least 3 months during the 6-month poltergeist haunting. And I would read it every day, and it would boost me. And even when poltergeist stuff was happening around me, I ignored it, and I just focused on it. Let me just read a little bit of it for you. A focused mind is the most powerful force in the universe. I must succeed. Winning. I put winning. Got to understand the context of the year 2011. Charlie Sheen had his own daily affirmation of positivity, and it was winning. Winning is what Charlie Sheen was saying on TV every day at the time. And I didn't have TV, but I did have the internet, and I saw the clips all over the internet. And I didn't even particularly watch his show, 2.5 Men, but I did watch it with family members, and I was familiar with the show. And I didn't know what road that would lead to. I didn't know he would get to where he's at today. At the time, I thought he was really brave for standing up to the executives, and I thought it was a positive, great thing. And it's a very dated term, winning, but it's dated 2011 when I wrote this. Winning. Success obstacles must be destroyed. I consider the poltergeist a success obstacle. It was trying to tear me down mentally. It was trying to cause me to lose sleep. It was physically knocking down actual objects in my room on a nightly basis, on a daily basis, starting around 5:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. It would play with stuff, knock on stuff all the time, constantly. I would say it was a very active poltergeist, and I would say a good number of the time it violently knocked it over, as opposed to just casually knocking it over. It did seem to go psh, and smack it over, and I have described it as an invisible monkey. I've described it as an invisible person. It was clearly a demon, a negative entity, independent of me. I don't have telekinetic powers. I don't have fire starter powers. I can't move objects with my mind. I'm not under any illusion that that's possible, okay? I can't do it. In my opinion, you can't do it. In my opinion, humans can't do that. There's a movie called Phenomenon, starring John Travolta, where he gets a brain tumor and he can magically start moving objects and breaking glass and levitating objects. And I actually had a conversation with the writer of that movie. Very cool guy. I didn't realize he was the writer. He told us he was a writer of movies. He was a script writer. After talking to him, I Googled him, and it turns out he was the writer of Phenomenon. But that's fiction. It's fantasy. It's not real. There are people that are going to say poltergeist activity has to do with your angst or your issues or something you're going through. I wasn't going through anything other than I found a room on Craigslist. I think it was $400 a month, and that's the cheapest I could find at the time. It's the reason I bore through these 6 months in this room, because of $400 a month. I kept looking and looking and looking. I couldn't find anything cheaper. The second I found a room even the same price, I did move out, and it was down the street in the same neighborhood. Let me finish this. I understand I do go off on tangents. The prophecy foretells I am a champion. Napoleon Hill really emphasized you need to be over the top positive. You're a king, you're a prince, you're a commander of your own life. You're the chief of your own life. You can do it. I was trying to get through an actual negative entity. This isn't made up. I did try prayer. I read the Bible, believe it or not, for like a week straight. I would read the Bible for a week straight. And while I'm reading the Bible for a week straight, this thing was still knocking over stuff in the room. I would cast it out. It would leave. But during the leaving process, it would knock over stuff. I would command it to leave. It would knock over stuff. That's the only time I had a conversation with it. If you could say conversation, I would say, get out of here. It would knock over something. And then it would come back. So it would say, I hate you. Basically, I wouldn't even acknowledge its existence. My thought power detects and destroys failure, manifests and materializes success. That's something straight out of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. You can materialize success with thought alone. How does that work? How does that happen? Every successful story starts with a thought that is written down on a piece of paper, that is focused on, until it becomes reality. Some people can just think about it and do it, and it becomes reality. But writing it down really helps. And having a daily affirmation like this, as cheesy and as corny as it looks and sounds, I think it helps. My focused mind is the most powerful force in the universe. This is my daily affirmation that I read for at least 3 months straight. And it did help me. It did keep me focused and positive. Almost like a monk during this horrific event, I rewrote it. And I wrote it kind of like a monk would write something. Really neat and organized. I'm not going to read this one word for word, but you can check it out if you want. It's the same gist. My thought power detects and destroys failure, manifests, and materializes success. I used to read this every single day to the point where I could quote it without even reading it. I could quote it from memory, and I haven't read it, I admit, in a few years. I need to read this more often. Perhaps it'll help me stay focused, but I recommend something as small as a daily affirmation. Write it yourself, have it mean something for yourself. According to Napoleon Hill's book, and I recommend you highly pick up Think and Grow Rich. I wish I had a copy of Think and Grow Rich laying around. I do have a copy somewhere, but I don't know where it is. It's in a box somewhere. I have so many books. But Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is one of my all-time favorite books. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Napoleon Hill, he created a system which can theoretically get anyone out of poverty according to him. Now that's quite the claim. But he said it all has to do with positive thinking. If you think positive and think rich-minded, you can drag yourself out. You can accomplish anything. You can get through anything. If I can withstand 6 months of poltergeist activity and not go full-blown bonkers insane, And I guarantee you, I'm not bonkers. I'm not insane. I'm a sound person. I just happen to be a YouTuber. This is pretty much my only outlet to share this information. But I am writing my book, Corners of Rooms. Stay tuned for that. Pick up Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You can even download the PDF for free, I believe. It's an amazing book. You can crystallize your mind for positivity. I can tell you one thing. I took the book so seriously that for a good 2 weeks straight, I didn't have a single negative thought for 2 weeks straight, to the point where I was almost buzzing of positivity. I was trying to think of positive things about every interaction in my life. And then, of course, as usual, life caused it to crash on down. Someone at work was frustrated, probably by my having a positive attitude. Maybe they thought I was annoying them for one reason or another. And they went into the manager's office and complained about me for doing my job. And that's what stopped my positive thought process. I went from perfectly positive to, what the heck, I didn't do anything. And a negative thought entered my mind. It was tough. It was tough. It's probably the longest period of time I've ever had nothing but 100% positive thoughts. 2 weeks. And this was during the Poltergeist attacks. I have firsthand experience and understanding of the nature of demons. When people say demons don't exist, all I can do is say they've never introduced themselves to you. You're not on a wavelength where they're interested in you in the slightest, or at least acknowledging their existence to you, which is actually extremely common. They don't reveal themselves to humans very often. Even humans, even people that try to summon demons, and try to summon them and get them, and try to get them to obey my commands and give me some money. Yeah. Even people that set up altars with black candles and try to worship these demons, even then, I have to assume it doesn't work very often. Extremely rare. In my case, none of that happened. I've never worshipped a demon. Worshipping demons is called demonolatry. I have a book called Demonolatry. I don't recommend worshipping demons. Don't give them sacrifices. Don't give them blood. Don't give them incense. Don't give them food. Don't give them rice. Don't give them anything. Because the second you do, whether you know they're there or not, they will be there invisibly. They're going to latch onto you and kind of like a psychic vampire try to suck the life out of you. If I had to guess, this poltergeist was trying to suck the life out of me in one context or another. It always entered the room the same way every single time, in the corner of my room. I'm writing a book called Corners of Rooms. Stay tuned. Stay positively minded. I thank you for watching. This has been John Rasmus with Occult Unmasked. Be seeing you.